I woke up to the smell of antiseptic. Sharp, cold, metallic, it clung to the back of my throat like something I couldn't swallow. The ceiling above me was the color of damp paper. I blinked slowly. My eyelids felt heavier than bricks, and then I remembered. No, I didn't remember, not fully. There was just a blinding flash, then darkness. Something about rain, screeching tires, my chest tightening, my head cracking against. I stopped, my heart monitor was beeping too fast. I turned my head, or tried to. A dull ache spread down my neck like someone pressing ice into my spine. That's when I saw her. My sister Lily, sitting in the chair by my bed, her knees pulled up slightly, her fingers tapping the armrest like she was counting seconds. She had that smile on her face, the one she always used when she wanted people to think she cared, soft, sweet, fake. When she noticed my eyes on her, her lips parted just a little, like she was about to speak, but she didn't. Instead, she leaned forward and brushed my hair off my forehead. Her hand was warm, too warm. I thought you were asleep, she whispered. Her voice trembled in the exact way someone's would if they'd been crying, except her eyes weren't red. I wanted to ask her what happened, where I was, but my throat burned like it was lined with sand. The only sound I made was a hoarse rasp. She glanced at the door. Then, leaning so close I could feel her breath on my ear, she said something I wasn't meant to hear. It's almost over, just one more day. Then, we'll have it all. Though he didn't include me. I could tell from the way her tone shifted, low, precise, like she was rehearsing it for someone else. My fingers twitched against the blanket. My heart monitor sped up. Her eyes flicked to the screen, and she smiled wider. "SHHH, don't get worked up," she murmured, stroking my hair. "You'll make it worse." She thought I was too weak, too drugged. She thought I didn't understand. She stood, checked her phone, and walked to the window. The blinds were half closed, letting in thin stripes of dying afternoon light. Her reflection floated in the glass, phone pressed to her ear. I could hear her voice, faint but sharp. "No, he's still out. I told you. Yes, tomorrow night. I'll text when it's done." The word echoed in my skull. I closed my eyes, breathing shallow, pretending to drift back into unconsciousness. Her footsteps came closer. She looked down at me, so close I could see the faint smear of lipstick at the corner of her mouth, and then she smiled again, the kind of smile that could make anyone in the hallway think she was an angel. But I knew it was the same smile she'd worn the night she'd lied to our mother, the same smile she'd used when she stole from my wallet and swore she didn't, the same smile she gave every time she was about to ruin something. "Sleep well, big brother," she whispered, tucking the blanket under my chin. "You won't have to worry about anything soon." She left. The door clicked shut. I lay there, my skin cold under the hospital sheets, staring at the pale ceiling. The beeping of the heart monitor slowed. Not because I was calmer, but because my blood felt like ice. She thought I was broken. She thought I couldn't hear. She thought I was just a heartbeat away from disappearing. She had no idea I'd be ready for her. 3 days before the hospital bed, I was sitting at my kitchen table, watching rain slide down the window in crooked lines. The storm had been rolling in since morning, heavy clouds pressing against the sky like they wanted to smother the city. I'd been avoiding calls all day, from friends, from my boss, from Lily. I didn't want to talk to anyone. It had been a bad month. The company I worked for had announced financial restructuring, which was corporate language for we're about to gut the place and pretend it's progress. I was one of the lucky ones who kept their job, if you could call working 12-hour shifts and being paid late lucky. And then came the call from the bank. The numbers didn't add up. Money missing from my personal account. I thought it was a glitch. It was in single quotes T. The same day Lily showed up at my door. She was soaked through, the rain dripping off her hair onto my hallway floor. "I tried calling," she said, shoving her phone into her pocket. Her cheeks were flushed, not from the cold but from moving fast. "Why aren't you answering anyone?" I shrugged, motioning for her to come in. She walked past me, her heels clicking on the wood, leaving tiny wet footprints. She looked around my place, not with concern, but with that subtle scanning she always did, like she was mentally cataloging what I owned. "Have you eaten?" she asked, unzipping her jacket. I shook my head. She didn't hesitate, went straight to the kitchen, rummaged in the fridge, pulled out eggs and bread. It was so casual, so sistly. By the time she slid a plate in front of me, steam curling off the scrambled eggs. I almost forgot why I'd been ignoring her. Almost. We sat in silence for a while. She watched me eat. Not the food, me, and then she said, "You know, you can trust me, right?" It wasn't a question, it was a performance. Her voice was soft, her eyes steady, like she was auditioning for the role of perfect sister. I nodded because that was easier than asking. "Why are you saying that now?" She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Her fingers were warm, her grip firm. "You've been through enough." She said, "You don't need to handle everything alone." I remember thinking that maybe she was right. Maybe I was being too closed off. Maybe she really wanted to help. Later that night, she convinced me to let her drive me to the bank the next morning. She said she'd sit with me while I sorted out the account issue, as she called it. I agreed. She left with a smile. 2 days later, we were in her car, rain again, heavier this time, hammering against the windshield. We didn't make it to the bank, we didn't make it past the intersection. At Hartwell and 7th, I remember her laughing at something on the radio. I remember headlights. Too bright. Too close. I remember her shouting my name. Then metal screaming. Then nothing. When I woke up in the hospital, her face was the first thing I saw, the face that 3 days earlier had told me I could trust her, the same face that, an hour ago, whispered that everything would be over soon. The day after I overheard her on the phone. Lily came back in the morning with a paper bag from the cafe across the street. "Your favorite," she said, setting it on the tray table. The smell of coffee and buttered toast filled the sterile hospital room, almost making me forget the sharp tang of disinfectant. Almost. She poured coffee into the paper cup and held the straw to my lips. "Careful, it's hot." Her tone was gentle, rehearsed. It was the same tone she used on my old dog, Murphy. Right before she accidentally let him out of the yard when I was 16. I didn't realize it then, but that was the first time I learned her kindness could be a setup. I took a sip, but the bitter coffee only sharpened the edges of my thoughts. The echo of her whisper from yesterday replayed in my head. "Just one more day. We'll have it all." The words coiled around me like cold wire. "Did the doctor say when I can leave?" I asked. My voice still raw. She avoided my eyes. "They, want to keep you another night. For observation." The pause before observation was too long. The way she glanced at the door after she said it was too fast. She reached into her purse to check her phone. Her thumb moved quickly across the screen, a flick, then a pause, then a little smile at whatever she saw. Not the kind of smile you give a doctor's update. The kind you give when you're texting someone who's in on your secret. I wanted to ask who was that, but my voice felt caught behind my teeth. Instead, I pretended to drift off. Her chair creaked as she leaned back. The sound of typing filled the quiet room. Through half-closed eyes, I caught the reflection of her phone in the metal arm of my first stand. A name popped up, just 3 letters, Dan. I didn't know a Dan, she'd never mentioned one. "Tomorrow night," she whispered into her phone. Again, her back angled just enough to block me from seeing her face. I caught fragments. "Money's ready, transfer. Just stick to the plan." The plan, it wasn't paranoia anymore. It was something that smelled wrong, like milk just past its expiration date, not sour enough to throw out, but you know it's not safe. That night, I couldn't sleep. The hallway outside my door was too quiet, broken only by the low hum of the fluorescent lights. I heard footsteps once, slow, measured, and then the click of a door closing 2 rooms down. At 2:14 a.m., the door to my room opened just an inch. A thin sliver of light from the hallway slid across the floor. I didn't move. I listened. The door closed again, as quietly as it had opened when I finally drifted off. My dreams were jagged and hot, full of voices I couldn't see and faces I couldn't trust. By morning, my suspicion was a living thing. It sat in the corner of my mind, alert, watching every move she made. When Lily arrived with her perfect smile and fresh coffee, I saw it for what it was, a mask. Behind it was something sharp. I still didn't know what tomorrow night meant, but I knew I had less than 24 hours to find out. When we were kids, Lily was the kind of little sister people loved instantly. Dimples when she smiled, eyes wide enough to make her look innocent, even when she wasn't. To me, she was a storm in the shape of a girl. I was 12 when I first realized she didn't always play fair. It was summer. The kind where the air sticks to your skin, and the cicadas scream so loud you can't think. I'd spent weeks saving allowance for a model airplane kit. The day I brought it home, Lily asked if she could help build it. I said no, not because I didn't want her to, but because she'd already broken 2 of my Lego sets and forgotten to say sorry. The next morning, the box was gone. She swore she hadn't touched it. 2 days later, I found it in pieces, behind the shed, dirt sticking to the plastic wings. When I confronted her, she cried so hard my mother grounded me for upsetting her. That was the first time I learned Lily could turn guilt into a weapon. We carried that unspoken pattern into adulthood. Whenever something went missing, she had an alibi ready. Whenever I succeeded at something, she was just close enough to take credit, but far enough to avoid blame if it went wrong. By the time I graduated college, our conversations were short and careful. We didn't fight openly anymore. We just circled each other, like 2 predators pretending to be tamed. There was one night, 5 years ago, I can't stop thinking about now. I'd been dating someone for almost a year, a woman named Claire. We were serious, talking about moving in together. Then, out of nowhere, Claire stopped answering my calls. A week later, Lily showed up at my apartment with a bottle of wine and a look on her face like she'd just won a prize. "You're better off," she said. "She wasn't right for you." I didn't ask how she knew Claire was gone. I didn't ask why she smiled when she said it. But I saw the text on her phone later that night, from Claire thanking Lily for being honest about me. I never found out exactly what Lily told her, but I didn't need the details. It was enough to know she'd taken something from me and made it look like she was protecting me. That's how it always was with Lily. Every loss was disguised as a favor. Every wound came with a bandage she'd handpicked for me. And now, lying in this hospital bed, I couldn't help wondering, how long had she been waiting for this moment? How long had she been planning something that would require me to be weak, silent, unable to move? The thought made my skin crawl, because if I knew Lily, she wouldn't just take money. She wouldn't just take credit, she'd take something bigger, something she couldn't give back. It was late afternoon when I finally heard it all. Not just fragments, not just whispers, everything. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft hiss of the oxygen vent and the rhythmic beeping of my monitor. Lily had stepped out for coffee, or so she said. She came back 10 minutes later, phone pressed tight to her ear. The door didn't latch all the way, and she didn't notice. I kept my eyes half closed, pretending to sleep. Her heels clicked softly on the tile as she moved toward the window. The blinds were open just enough to let in a line of light across the floor. I could see her reflection, the tilt of her head, the sharp focus in her eyes, in the darkened glass. "Yes, he's still hooked up." "No, he doesn't know anything," she said. Her voice was calm, confident. "That's the beauty of it. He trusts me." She paused, listening. "Then, tomorrow night, you'll meet me in the parking garage. The documents will be ready. We'll do the transfer there. Bank won't even flag it until Monday morning." Documents transfer. My stomach twisted. Lily's voice dropped lower, but I caught every word. "I already have his account access. He gave me the login last week when I offered to help after the accident." She laughed, soft, almost musical. "No, he won't be a problem after tomorrow. I'll make sure of it." The air in my lungs felt heavy. I kept my breathing steady, shallow, so she wouldn't hear the change. She went on. "Yes, the insurance. 2 policy kicks in fully if, well, you know, that's why the timing has to be perfect." A pause. Then, almost casually, "They'll think it's complications from the crash." My pulse thudded so hard I was sure she could hear it. I was a payout, a walking check waiting to be cashed. She slipped her phone into her bag, checked her reflection one last time, and turned toward me. I shut my eyes fully before her gaze landed. Her footsteps came closer. The smell of her perfume, something sweet and sharp, filled the air around me. She leaned over, her hand brushing the blanket near my arm. Her voice was sugar again. "Rest, big brother. You'll need your strength for tomorrow." The click of the door closing behind her felt like the sound of a lock sliding into place. I lay there for minutes, maybe hours, replaying her words in my head. Every syllable was a knife. I thought of the missing money, the crash, the way she'd insisted on helping with my accounts. She hadn't just stumbled into this plan. She'd built it piece by piece, probably long before the accident, and I'd handed her the tools. For the first time since waking up here, I didn't feel weak. I felt something else, cold and sharp. sitting deep in my chest. She thought I wouldn't be a problem after tomorrow. She was wrong. I stared at the ceiling until the patterns in the plaster started to look like cracks in ice. Every breath felt slow, controlled, because if I let it speed up, the nurses might come, and if the nurses came, Lily would find out. I knew I couldn't risk that, not yet. Her words were still in my head, clear as if she were whispering them into my ear again. He won't be a problem after tomorrow. They'll think it's complications from the crash. It should have terrified me. Instead, it lit something else inside me. Something I hadn't felt in weeks. Focus. I thought about every time she'd cut me down. Every time she'd twisted the truth into something I couldn't untangle. I thought about the model airplane behind the shed, Claire walking away without looking back, the stolen money, the smile she wore when she knew she'd won. This was just her biggest move yet, and like always, she thought she'd get away with it. A nurse came in to check my vitals. Around midnight, she moved quietly, adjusting the fur line, jotting notes on her clipboard. Doing okay, she whispered. I nodded. She didn't notice the way my eyes followed her pen, catching the name printed on the hospital forms she carried. It was a small detail, but it mattered, because if I was going to survive tomorrow, I'd need allies, even if they didn't know they were allies yet. I waited until the nurse left before testing my body again. Left hand, still weak. Right hand, better. I could grip the sheet tight enough to wrinkle it. Legs, heavy, slow, but not dead weight. Good. Not good enough yet, but maybe by tomorrow. I thought about the parking garage, about Dan, about the documents, and about Lily, smiling at me like I was already a memory. When the lights dimmed for the night, the hospital was swallowed in a heavy quiet, but my mind was loud, planning, turning over possibilities. If she thought tomorrow night was hers, I'd make sure she never saw the end of it. I wasn't just going to survive. I was going to make her look me in the eyes when she realized she'd failed. By dawn, I was ready, not physically, not yet, but in my head. The pieces were already moving. She thought she knew the ending, but I was going to rewrite it. Morning light cut across the room in pale strips, thin enough to slip between the blinds. The beeping of my heart monitor seemed louder today. Every beat like a countdown. It was Saturday. Tomorrow didn't exist for me anymore. Everything that mattered was going to happen tonight. Lily arrived earlier than usual, too early. Her hair was perfect, her lipstick sharper than I'd seen all week. She wore a black coat, new, I think, with deep pockets. Morning, big brother, she said, her voice bright in a way that felt forced. She set her bag on the chair and glanced toward the hallway. Doctor says you're doing better, better. Her eyes didn't match the word. They flicked toward my foreline, then to the monitor, then back to me, like she was measuring me for something. I asked for water. She poured it slowly, her hand steady. But I noticed the faintest tremor in her fingers when she handed it over. She was nervous. Long night? I asked, watching her reaction. She laughed, quick, breathy. Just, couldn't sleep. Her gaze shifted to the window. Lots to do today, lots to do. I wondered if lots meant forging documents, meeting Dan, or deciding how to make my death look accidental. Around noon, she stepped out to talk to the nurse. I gave it 60 seconds before I swung my legs over the side of the bed. Pain lanced through my ribs, but I held onto the fur pole and made it 3 steps to the counter. That's where I found the slip of paper she'd left sticking out of her bag. A parking garage ticket, level B2, time stamped for 8:45 a.m. today. She'd already been there. I slid it back into her bag before she returned. Her eyes scanned me, not in concern, but in calculation. You're sitting up, that's good, she said, but she didn't sound happy about it. The afternoon dragged. Nurses came and went, adjusting machines, bringing lunch. I kept my voice calm, my face neutral, but my mind was working. I asked one nurse, the same one from last night, what time shift change was. 8, she said. That gave me a window. By 5. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. Lily paced twice, checked her phone 3 times, and made 2 short calls by the window, her voice too low for me to hear. Every move was wrapped in tension. She was ready for tonight. She thought I was too weak to stop it. At 7:15, she leaned over me and smoothed the blanket. Rest now, she said softly. I'll be back in a little while. The faint smell of her perfume lingered in the air after she left. The door shut. The clock ticked. My pulse matched it. It was time. The hallway outside my room felt colder than the air inside. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in that washed-out hospital white that makes time feel irrelevant. It was 7:20 p.m. if the nurse's shift change happened at 8. I had 40 minutes before the floor went quiet again. 40 minutes to stop being a patient and start being a problem. I shuffled toward the elevator, IV pole rolling beside me like a silent accomplice. Every step pulled at my ribs. Every breath scraped the inside of my lungs, but pain was better than being dead by morning. The elevator ride to the lobby was too slow. Every ding felt like a warning bell. When the doors slid open, I kept my head down, my hospital gown hidden under a borrowed hoodie from the supply closet. Outside, the air was sharp with the smell of rain on concrete. The parking garage loomed to my left, 6 levels of shadow and echo. B2 was where Lily had been this morning, B2 was where she'd be tonight. I took the stairs, one slow step at a time, my hand tight around the railing. By the time I reached level B2, the sound of my own breathing felt too loud. The garage was nearly empty. Rows of concrete pillars stretched into darkness, each one catching the glow from a few dim lights overhead. Water dripped somewhere in the distance, the sound echoing like a clock ticking in an empty room. I found a spot between 2 SUVs, crouched low, and waited. The smell of oil and damp cement wrapped around me. At 7:46, footsteps, heels, Lily's. She appeared from the far end, her black coat cutting a sharp line against the pale gray of the garage. She was on her phone, voice low but urgent. Yes, I'm here now. 10 minutes. She popped the trunk of a dark sedan, not her usual car. From inside, she pulled a slim black briefcase, the kind with combination locks. She set it on the hood, her back to me. A man stepped out of the shadows on the other side of the garage, tall, broad shoulders, baseball cap pulled low. Dan. It had to be. I stayed still. Every instinct told me to move now, but I waited. I needed to hear it. All of it. Once I get the confirmation, we're done, Lily said, flipping open the case. Stacks of papers inside. Some looked like bank forms. Others I couldn't see. Dan lit a cigarette, the flame briefly lighting his face. Early 40s, hard lines, eyes that didn't blink much. You sure about the timing? He asked. Lily smiled. By midnight, it won't matter. He'll be gone. They'll call it a complication, and I'll be signing the release papers before sunrise. My grip tightened on the four-pole. The plan was real. The timeline was real, and now, the moment to move was almost here. I stepped out from between the SUVs. The rubber tips of the four-pole scraped softly against the concrete. The sound echoed just enough to make Lily freeze. She turned her head slowly. For a split second, she didn't seem to recognize me. Then her face shifted, shock quickly smoothed into something almost amused. Well, she said, look who's walking. Dan's eyes narrowed. He glanced at Lily. You said he was sleeping, she cut in. He was. I moved closer. Every step hurt, but pain didn't matter anymore. What's in the case? I asked. I kept my voice steady. Cold. Lily tilted her head, pretending to think. Just some paperwork, nothing you need to worry about. Funny, I said, because I heard you talking about a transfer. Heard you talking about me not being a problem after tonight. Her smile faltered. Dan shifted his weight, the cigarette still glowing between his fingers. Look, he said, I don't know what you think you heard, but, don't. I snapped. My voice sharp enough to bounce off the concrete. I heard everything. The insurance, the account access, the timing, all of it. Lily sighed like I was being unreasonable. You've been through a trauma, you're confused. You've been planning this since before the crash, I said. You're not getting away with it. For the first time, I saw a flicker of something real in her eyes. Not guilt, but calculation. She glanced at Dan, then back at me. You can't prove anything. That's the thing, I said, pulling my phone from the hoodie pocket. The screen glowed. The recording app still running. Her voice played back, tinny but clear. By midnight. It won't matter, he'll be gone. Dan swore under his breath. Lily's jaw tightened. You think that's enough? It's your word against mine. Not when it's streamed to cloud storage, I said. And not when the hospital security cameras show me leaving my room to follow you here. The garage felt smaller now, the air heavier. Lily stepped toward me, slow, like she thought she could still talk me down. But Dan stayed where he was, watching me with something colder than curiosity. What do you want? Lily asked finally. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch until I saw her start to shift on her feet. You're going to walk back into that hospital with me, I said, and tell the staff you need to check me out against medical advice. Then, when we get to the lobby, You're going to keep walking alone, and if I don't? She asked, voice tight. Then Dan here gets to find out what happens when you make a deal with someone who's already burned. Dan's eyes flicked. Between us, reading the tension, I could tell he was starting to calculate his own exit strategy. Lily's smile was gone now. What was left was just her sharp edges, no mask. You think you've won, she said softly. No, I said. I know I've survived. I stepped past her. The fork-pole clattering lightly against the concrete. Behind me, her heels stayed frozen in place. Dan's cigarette hit the floor. The ember snuffed out. For the first time, I didn't look back. I didn't stop walking until the hospital doors slid shut behind me. The fluorescent lights above hummed, bright and sterile, like nothing in the garage had ever happened. A nurse looked up from the front desk, startled. Mr. Hale, you shouldn't be. I'm fine, I said, keeping my voice calm. But I need to speak to security, right now. By the time Lily appeared, security was already waiting. Her hair was neat, her smile back in place, but her eyes betrayed her. The moment she saw the two guards, her steps faltered. Is something wrong? She asked, the picture of innocence. I didn't answer. Instead, I held up my phone. The guard took it, listening just long enough for Lily's own voice to hang in the air between us like smoke. She tried to laugh it off. Takes things out of context, doesn't it? But the guards weren't smiling. One of them gestured for her to step aside. Dan, I asked, looking past her. He wasn't there. Of course he wasn't. The police arrived within the hour. I gave my statement, every detail, every word I remembered. When they led Lily out in handcuffs, she didn't look at me, not once. But I could feel her anger like heat on my skin. That was fine. I wanted her to know I'd still be standing tomorrow. Back in my hospital bed, I stared at the ceiling. The steady beep of the heart monitor was oddly comforting now. But just as sleep began to pull at me, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One new message. You got her, but she wasn't the only one.